morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever the case may be. I hope you all are very well today. Today is Monday, it's the 14th of February and Valentine's Day, believe it or not, so I hope you're all having a good day. As promised, I've got in today's show, episode, whatever you want to call it, is the period of time when I was in the cadets and we stayed on the island of Bryher on the Isles of Scilly for 2 weeks. And as I said in the last episode, a near-death experience of one of our cadets. I gave 2 of the clues and I missed one out, foolishly me. So one was a Ouija board, 2 was very small graves, and the third thing, which I forgot to include in the last episode, was a pair of baseball boots. So that's coming up very shortly. I've given this the title of What the Hell Happened, and this was back in 1977, the summer of, when I was a mere lad. I expect some of you listening weren't even born or even thought of then, and some of you might have been. It was. I thought the 70s were great, as I've said previously. Sorry, I'm just fiddling around my desktop a second. If you can just forgive me, sorry about that. I thought I was ready, but obviously I wouldn't. Give myself a slap. Okay, yeah, summer of 77. Sounds like a song, doesn't it? No, it doesn't. Anyway, as I said, we had saved money as cadets. We've made money. We've done different functions in order to raise some money, and we were going to go to the Isles of Scilly for 2 weeks as sort of a holiday and half training. And there was a select few of us. I think it was only about 10 of us cadets. I think that's about the number, and 2 instructors stroke officers. Anyway, so we had to take the ship, which is called the Scilly, from Penzance Harbour. So we arrived there early-ish one morning, although it doesn't depart until about 9 o'clock. And you can always hear when it departs, because you can hear the horn sounding as it leaves. Sort of a tradition. So the journey over was indeed stormy. It, as recorded at the time, it was the worst weather that the Scilly ever set sail in, and typically I was on it. But Billy and myself, that's my good friend, we felt fine. We ate our egg sandwiches on the way over, whilst the other cadets were throwing up. We were being battered with high winds and rains, and the captain of the ship invited us up to the bridge to have a look, and we went up there, and it was quite astounding to watch the bow of the ship disappear into the sea and then remerge again. Was quite a fantastic thing to witness. If I remember correctly, we arrived at St. Mary's and the storm remained out at sea, but it was still grey and overcast when we docked. Billy and myself, in our panic, chose the wrong hatch to depart through. We opened this hatch thinking, all hatches lead to the harbour, but we were wrong. We found ourselves with only the rim of the ship to navigate around, with a heavy backpack and wearing our number 8s and odd nail boots. If we'd fallen in, that would have been curtains for us. So it would have been bye-bye Billy and bye-bye Steve. Again, you could make another song up about that, couldn't you? We retraced our steps back and found our way to the upper deck, and eventually to the safety of the harbour sound ground. I don't know where I came up with sound ground. Sound ground? Okay. After loading all our gear onto a flat-bottomed boat, we headed towards Bryher. We were relieved that the pilot managed to get us as close to the shore as possible, meaning we didn't get our boots wet or our feet wet. We walked up the beach, and just to our left was a little jetty with an iron bar sticking at the top, and we'll talk about that iron bar in a minute. We edged our way up and soon was on a narrow grass path, And in about 5 minutes we came across what's to be our home for the next 2 weeks. It was a huge wooden, well, you're inclined to call it a shed, but it's far bigger than the common shed, more like a wooden chalet. We entered and stowed our gear. The atmosphere, if an overly large shed could have one, was welcoming and warm. I know it was summer, but you know what I mean, don't you? So just 1 minute, I'm just trying to fiddle around again on my desktop and getting nowhere fast, just to show the human touch. I get things a little wrong sometimes, but anyway, back to the story, or back to the memory. It's not a story, it's a memory. Right, we needed a flagpole in order to serve our reveille and sunset duties, and I was the only bugler, or in this case I was the only one who wanted to do it. Anyway, a couple of cadets ran off to find a suitable piece of wood or something like that, or a branch or something that could make a flagpole, and they returned with an iron bar, and we never clocked where they got the iron bar from, so we stuck the iron bar into the ground, put our flag on it, and before we could hoist it, a chap walked up, and he was very nice. He could have been very angry. He could have been Mr. Angry of the Scilly Isles, but he wasn't. He was Mr. Nice, and he said, "Oh, hi guys, I know you need that, but that bar is put on the end of the jetty because when the tide comes in, it goes right over the jetty, and the boats can't see the jetty, and they crash into it." So yeah, we let him have it back. So, like I said, he was very nice. I don't know who he was. Obviously, he was a resident of the island. And so then we had to find something else, which we did. And I can't remember what, but we did. The first couple of days we spent soaking up the sun, listening to music like the Drifters singing "Float on, float on" a transistor. Did you like that? You did? More later. No, I'm only lying. On a transistor radio that somebody has sneaked from home. Right, I've got to explain at this point. Going to the loo, we had no toilet facilities in our enlarged shed stroke chalet. So if you wanted to go to the loo, you know, and that's number twos as well as number ones, you had to walk away from the chalet area. It's all like grassy, sandy area. And, you know, as soon as you felt that you were comfortable, nobody was watching you, except for rabbits. They weren't used to humans over there, rabbits. They could come right up to you, these wild things, you know, and be your friend forever. Bit unnerving when you're trying to have a poop, but that's another story, isn't it? We also saw Bill Oddie. He was, when the tide stutter. When the tide, apologies everybody, when the tide used to go right out, if you were quick, you could walk from Bryher to Tresco. If you weren't quick, you drowned, unless you could swim. But anyway, we saw Bill Oddie down on the beach walking along, and we said to him, "Oi, mister, you're Bill Oddie, aren't you?" And he went, "I may be." That was my best Bill Oddie voice there. Did you like that? Okay, moving along. You could also row across to Tresco for supplies, which we did. And on one occasion we were coming back, and one of the cadets leant back as he pulled the oar, and it snapped in his hand. And on another occasion we got stuck on a sandbar, and we got off to push it. As we kept pushing, all of a sudden you was out at depth. You're completely gone. So it was quite, you know, in places a little bit dangerous, but it was a beautiful place, beautiful scenery, and the water was pretty warm as well. Sometimes at night, Bob, that was our chief petty officer, used to tell us ghost stories that frightened the crap out of us. We didn't have mains electric in this chalet, so we had like candles and battery operated lights. So when he told his stories, well, he was always looking over your shoulder. Yeah, as I said, it scared us quite a bit. No wonder we slept. Right, so on one occasion, we had to go to the officers' quarters, which was the next room next to ours, and they said, "Well, we're going to do the Ouija board," and this is one night. So we had candlelight, and so the scene was pretty creepy. We couldn't tell if it was spirits moving the glass or one of us, but something in the corner of the room did fall over, and we all jumped. So I remember that. The next day, we did a quick recon around the island. It's not a very big island, and I don't remember seeing any other humans. All but the lady in the little tiny shop. I mean, the shop was the size of half a box room, and the owner of the cow, from which we had warm milk on our cereal every day, and that was heaven. We came across what seemed to be the island dumping ground, if I could call it that. There's rubble and bits and pieces and stuff like that. And sitting on a granite boulder was a pair of white baseball boots in almost new condition. Well, I made a grab for them, but Dale, sort of friend, although one day he did steal my girl, sped in front of me and he claimed them. But still to this day I puzzle over these boots. Why were they there, sitting on top of a granite boulder, almost new? Why did somebody leave them there? Well, Dale hadn't tried the boots on and seemed disinterested in them, which annoyed me as I really, really wanted them. The next day we were to do our 24-hour survival stint on the uninhabited island of Samson. Sorry, just losing my track there a minute. Sorry about this, everybody. 1 second. There we go. That's better. Samson is basically shaped as two humps, one in the north and one in the south. We were landed amongst these huge seals. All we had was a 24-hour ration pack each and a few litres of drinking water. There was no bedding, no tents, no sleeping bags, and no means of communication. We were talking the 70s here. You couldn't lug around a cool box with you, could you? Because that was all you had back then. You know, there's no such thing as mobiles, telephones, that sort of thing. So the north hump, no, hang on a minute, I got that wrong. The south hump had ruins of buildings, no roof, just walls made of local stone and mud as mortar. We cut back ferns for bedding and laid it down where we chose to sleep. I remember it being a Sunday because we listened to the top 20 on the radio. Yes, you heard top 20. God, how we were sport back in those days. I jest, of course. At 11 p.m. that night, we had to go to the north side of the island and flash our torch 3 times across the sea in the direction of St. Mary's, where our adult instructors would be frantic with worry, wringing their hands. Again, I'm being sarcastically funny. They were, and I realised later, in fact drinking in the pub on the island. So there we go. Once we'd done this would indicate we were okay. Yep, there was no adults with us on this mission. On seeing our flash, now knowing that they wouldn't have had hope in hell seeing the flash of a torch from that distance, but at the time we believed it all to be true. So we decided before it became dark that we would walk over to the north side and get our bearings. It took about 10 minutes to walk, and once there we couldn't see St. Mary's because of the humidity. Also, there was another important problem. Well, a massive problem for us people as we were young. There were ancient graves there. No headstones, just stone-clad sides to graves. The graves were tiny, maybe of children, of small people. It was enough to scare us, and nobody, even the hard nuts amongst us, wanted to traipse over at 11 o'clock at night and signal that we were all okay. So at 11 p.m. that night, with our fire dying in the corner of the ruins, somebody climbed onto the wall of the ruined building and flashed the torch, that is, 3 times. Well, trying to sleep that night was virtually impossible. It felt cold. We could hear the odd thud on the ground. and if it sounded like ferns were being walked through by humans. No, by what we didn't know. We say humans, but we don't know. It could have been animals, but it spooked us. The next day we returned to Bryher, and we actually lied about going to the north side and signalling. We said that we did it, but our officers lied back in acknowledging that they had saw the signal. It was cool. That's the way it was. The next night we were planning to do seek and defend on Bryher. We split into two groups. I was in the defending team and was partnered with Dale, and just to rub it in a bit, he decided to wear the baseball boots. Okay, me and bitterness go a long way. Yeah, they should have been mine. Yeah, okay, no, leave it there. Walk away, Steve. During the night, all was well, and I decided that we needed to move and hide into some longer grass. Dale was just lying down, and I shook him. So I wanted him to look at me. I didn't want to speak because I didn't want to give our position away. There was no response from him. I leaned into him face to face. His face was a strange colour, whitish grey. I knew he wasn't well, and for a couple of minutes I thought he was dead. I shouted, and everybody within a couple of minutes or so gathered around me. We carried the very, very sick, poorly Dale back to our living base, lit all the candles possible. He didn't look good lying on that wooden floor. The adults were talking in hushed tones about getting help from the mainland. I decided to make Dale more comfortable and remove the baseball boots. As I did, all the right colour returned to his face, and he came round. He was totally confused at what was going on, but he made a full recovery within seconds. The next day, without talking to each other, Dale and myself returned the boots from where we found them. Now, were they cursed? Did the Ouija board conjure up an evil spirit? Or did we upset the spirits of the graves on Samson Island, an island where there is no human life? Throughout the 2 weeks we did a whole lot of other things. I must admit I fell in love with the Isles of Scilly. It's like a tropical paradise, and if you ever get to visit, I strongly recommend you do. You can fly over via helicopter, which is just situated outside of Penzance, or take Scilly. I recommend Scilly because it takes you around the back of Newley and Maresol before you set out sail into the sea. So I think that's it for today's program. It's short and sweet, to the point. I hope you enjoyed it. What is your favourite school day memories, if you have any? Or your school day hates? You might have a few of those as well. I'd love to know. In the next episode, I'm going to talk about music and my top 20 70s, yes, 70s records. Until then, thank you very much for listening. Thank you for popping in. Stay well. And this is Steve Richards saying, see you again.